Hello everyone, my name's Matt, and my primary role at British Exploring is mostly about finding the young people from various places and organisations to come and join us on expedition. But none of the expeditions that we do would be possible without the amazing group of people that Caroline and her team recruit every year to come and lead on those expeditions. We can't get them all here tonight. They're all over the place, many of them up mountains. But what we are going to do is get a few of them up on stage to answer a few questions about who they are and what they do, to give you guys a flavour of the remarkable people who come and lead for British Exploring. So if I can invite up Alex, Fernando, Tony and Jenny to come and join me on stage, that would be great. No, I can stand, that's fine. Okay, Alex, we'll start with you if that's all right. You've recently returned from our Himalaya 2017 expedition, and that was your first experience of leading with British Exploring. I'd like to ask you to share with everyone why you got involved, and what you got out of your first experience, and whether it was what you expected.
Yeah, so this was my first time with British Exploring. I'd heard about it through various friends and colleagues. And I work in logistics and operations normally. So it really appealed to go for the role as the base camp manager, as it seemed a great way to use those skills. And I perhaps hadn't realized that that was a good way to work with British Exploring. You sort of think it might just be for mountain leaders and things. And on a more personal level, I love the outdoors, and I was really lucky to have an upbringing that was very adventurous and in the outdoors. And I really liked the values that British Exploring could give people that opportunity. So yeah, our expedition, I think that's a picture from us up there, isn't it? So we had quite a lot of fun. And it just exceeded all expectations. And I think you asked, was it what I expected?
Yeah.
And it was just so much more than I expected. I expected it to be fun and hard work and exciting. And it was just so much more fun and so much more hard work than I expected as well. Yeah.
Thank you. If you could hand over to Fernando, who... now, Fernando, you were also on your first time with us last season in the Amazon, but you're coming back with us again this year to lead in the Yukon. Fernando's role is as a scientist on expedition, so I'd like you to explain to the audience what part science plays on a British Exploring expedition, and why is it important?
Science. Why is it important? First, for me, it's very important because it allows me to go on expedition. But yeah, thank you, British Exploring, for making your expeditions with a purpose. And that's the key, I think, for science to be in expeditions in British Exploring. Because I totally agree with climbers when they say, why do we climb? Because the mountain is there, it's reason enough. And I agree, but if you add a discovery to a climbing, isn't that like at least 20 times better? So discovery, I mean, science is discovery. Science is reaching very far into the unknown and grasping a little bit of it to make it part of our knowledge. And so this thrill for discovery is what makes an expedition so much better. And also, at the same time, this seek for discovery, this common task, this common purpose, it's a fantastic tool to do what British Exploring really tries, which is create an environment for young people to develop, to grow. And science is perfect for that, because to to create a discovery, to find something, to make science, you need a lot of things, like be a good team worker, plan properly, a lot of skills that now we have an excuse to use in an expedition. So yeah, I think that science is at the very root of what British Exploring does, because it helps to create this environment for growth.
Thank you. Okay, so next up I'd like to ask you a question, Tony. Tony has led for us in the Himalayas, in Namibia, and in Iceland on a number of occasions. And a special thank you for flying all the way back from Dubai tonight to be with us. Really, really appreciated. So Tony, I wanted to ask you, in your professional life, you're as familiar with the boardroom environment as you are with the outdoors. Why do you think it's important for young people to get experience in the outdoors?
Okay, good question. But I don't think it's only young people that can gain advantage from being on these expeditions. I think we all can. Imagine this scenario. So you're a leader in Iceland. It's very wet, very, very wet. It's very cold. And you're walking along right at the back of the group with a young explorer who's walking incredibly, almost unbelievably slowly, and is getting more and more miserable. Then you reach yet another river that we've got to cross. He throws down his pack on the ground, sits on it and says, "I'm not going to take another step." And suddenly all the management tools that you had don't seem quite so powerful. You can't suggest a vote of no confidence or send him an email saying his performance this afternoon has been less than satisfactory. So, I think what I'm trying to say is we all gain from being on expeditions, both leaders and explorers. But to answer your question, what do I think the young people can really take from the expedition? I think one of the most important things is a sense of team membership and the power that a successful team can have, and how valuable it is to be part of that team. So, management speak used to talk about teams forming, norming, storming, performing. I don't think I ever really knew what all the terms meant. But what I do know is, and what I did experience on British exploring expeditions, is a group of people getting together and becoming more than the sum of its individual parts. And a group of people forming its own strong, powerful identity and sense of purpose, which allow that group to do more than perhaps most of the individuals, if not all the individuals, thought they could do. So in answer to your question, Matt, that experience is so wonderful. I think that is why I would encourage young people to go on a British exploring expedition.
Thank you. Okay, and so lastly, Jenny, much like Tony, Jenny also has a long list of participation as a leader on British exploring expeditions. She's led with us in Norway, a few times in the Himalayas, and on 2 different expeditions in the Canadian Yukon last year, and is coming back again to the Yukon with Fernando this year again. So what do you think are the most common lessons that young people learn in the outdoors, and what surprised you over the years?
There's loads of lessons. I think the most common one, the most obvious one that everyone brings back when they report back after expedition is self-organisation. That having to sort yourself out, look after yourself, make everything organised in a tent, and how that transfers back into real life. Another one that I'm particularly pleased comes back a lot is environmental awareness. So while they're out on expedition, every bit of waste having to be accounted for, every drop of water having to be very carefully filtered, collected, just makes people so much more aware of how much waste and how easy we have things in our normal life. I think the one that surprises me or perhaps impresses me most is every so often we get one of those young people or not so young people who find it really, really difficult, and to the point of I can't do this. And if you're at home, would have gone, right, I'm going home, I'm getting on a train. And then just whatever it was that they thought they couldn't do it and become stronger because of it.
Thank you. The last thing I'm going to ask each of you to do before I let you off the stage, a lot of our young explorers will return home to applications to university or job interviews, and they'll often list British Exploring on their CVs. Unfortunately, not as many employers out there are aware of British Exploring as we would like. So if I could ask you, in as few words as possible, to maybe try and explain to a future employer what it is that those young people will have, what makes them special about the British Exploring experience.
So the first thing I will say, I will ask, really, which year do I know her? And then hire her. Because these people for sure have resilience. They adapt very well to new problems. They have this MacGyverism, the ability to find resources and use them when there is nothing else available. So I think it gives you a set of skills that you can apply to almost every job, especially a job that requires creativity.
Everything you just said. Yeah, I think a sense of determination, as you just put so well, even when you think you can't do something, they come back with this real sense of self-belief, which I think is huge. And that creativity that they just sought out this experience in the first place and applied themselves to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say to that employer, do yourself a favor, get this person in, let them speak, let them hear their story, because they'll certainly have a story to tell. I think you'll certainly find someone who's very self-aware, self-confident, and at the very least, very ready, willing, and able to talk about their strengths and weaknesses.
Thanks for leaving me to the end, so that you said all of them. I think every one of us at some point put on our CVs, I'm a great team player, but that young person or leader who's been out on these expeditions will genuinely know what it means to be a good team player, both in terms of logistically, what everyone had to do together, working together, but more importantly, emotionally and supporting the team and being sensitive to the people around them.